Welcome everyone to Sprint Zero. My name is Mike Gowland and I'm here with my co-partner in crime, Johnny D. Russell. John, how are you?
I'm great. How are we doing, guys?
Real well. What's new with you? I just biked 315 kilometers because I'm biking from London all the way back from Brighton, raising some money. You know me, I love the metric system.
Mike, you're the only guy I know that's equally as impressive to me. What can I say? My bearded brother.
Appreciate it. Yeah, raising some money for the Princess Anne Hospital via the Ickles Pickles charity. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Whoop, whoop.
John?
On your bike, mate.
All right. I'm speaking of doing noble and honest things, I have to come clean right now. My name is not actually Mike Gowland.
What?
And I believe you are not John.
Shh.
Don't get up.
It turns out I'm Franco. What? What's all that about?
And it turns out I actually don't really know the metric system.
Oh, mate, I'm here under false pretense.
Yeah, sometimes I sit in bed wondering if our podcast is really bad, batch. Jesus. You are a couple of pros.
As everyone can tell, this is a takeover episode. My name's Sean Ostrahan, or Sean Ostrakin, or Sean, good luck pronouncing my last name. I'm here with the Power Pages extraordinaire, Franco. But we have John and Mike on the call, too.
Hello! How you doing?
Is it a call or is it a show?
God
This
knows.
is a show call.
At this point, I haven't got a clue. Franco's basically in another country which has 1 megabyte internet, and he basically looks like Tetris or the end of the Matrix. Sean is looking absolutely squeaky clean. And Mike is looking lovely. So yeah, everyone's good.
Yeah.
I think 1 megabyte of internet's quite generous, John. 1 megabit, more like.
Mike, you're looking slimline.
Oh, thank you.
You're
You're the first guest to say that.
We're really
Wait, you're not a
grateful.
guest. No, wait, we're the guests, John, aren't we?
Yeah, we're the guests. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're really grateful that John and Mike let us completely sequester their show and mildly destroy the introduction so we could bring you a very special segment on learning. Where does that mean? There's learning in the conference form. There's YouTube tutorials. There's courses. There's classes. There's all kinds of stuff. We're going to get into everything from what makes a really good conference from all of you that are interested in doing a conference. Franco has done tons of them, all the way down to who was John's least favorite teacher growing up. Stay tuned. Starting with this one. Franco, you have a conference coming up, don't you?
I have a couple coming up, yeah.
Now, this one, the big one, it's happening in Las Vegas. Is that correct?
That's correct. Where I believe they have even better than where I am now.
Amazing. Can you walk us through, of the topics you've selected from conferences, it can be very nerve-wracking because it might not be accepted. Do you have any strategies to kind of convince the judges to accept your conference pitch?
I do, yes. And some good advice coming on the back of Scottish Summit. So, in fact, my session was declined. But Rory Neary, a good friend of mine, we're tag teaming on a session and that one's been approved. So what I can say is, based on his that was approved versus mine that was declined, the description was much more in depth. I think there's a bit of AI in there, but he'd gone way into what attendees will come away with, what's going to be the meat of the session, what are the key takeaways, is there going to be a live demo or not? And that really seemed to have sealed the deal. Also, it's about what is a good fit for the conference. So the session that I submitted was about freelancing and getting into contracting, which I personally feel there's a lot of interest in the community, but it didn't seem to be a good fit for the conference as far as the judges were concerned. That is one of the few conferences that does give detailed feedback, though, which is super helpful as a speaker, even though it's not necessarily what I wanted to hear this time. I got pulled up on a few jargon words, so I used things like flywheel, runway, as you're going from contracting, building a runway, to going to freelancing, building that flywheel of referrals and repeat customers, and they just kind of said, what the hell does all this mean? But it wasn't an interactive submission. It is you submit, you either get approved or rejected, and you get some feedback. So had it been, please make these changes and resubmit, maybe I'd be on. But for the sessions that I have had approved, it's been very much those that are hands-on, interactive, and it's content that you're not finding in every other conference I've had the most luck with.
Got it.
So Franco, are you saying that when you put in "it's my session in it" into the description, that doesn't get accepted?
What about when you put "it's my session in it" and I created your portal website for the ScottishSummit.com?
No,
doesn't that work either? Wow, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with your due diligence.
Yeah, so especially with Scottish Summit, everything is anonymised. So any clout you might have within the community, any favours you've done, like you said there with the portal, count for nothing. So maybe I'd have to rely on my dodgy Northwest potted English to jump out. Oh yeah, that's
nice. Have a code word.
Yeah, maybe.
Awesome. So team up with someone, obviously an engaging description, and then try to make it as hands-on as possible, and then right away talk about what the people are going to walk away with as soon as your workshop are like the main bullet points. Now,
absolutely,
John,
yeah. And sorry, the one that did get approved, as I say, was a tag team session, and from the attendee point of view, I really enjoy those because they just seem to be much more high energy. You can play off the other horse, especially if there's an internet delay like now.
Yeah, we're presenting. Me and Mike are presenting there as well. How not to run a podcast. Which, no offense, this is going to be a great example. We're going to have to make sure that this goes out.
It sounds like me and Franco should run that workshop now.
No comment. Let's see what the viewers think.
Yeah.
You two are no strangers to attending conferences. Do you each have a specific example of a conference session where you're like, that was a banger, I loved it? Like, you remember it to this day. Can you walk us through specifically what it was and what kept your attention? Some feedback we could give to either that presenter or someone who maybe is presenting for the first time.
So you know what? I was actually thinking about this the other day because I've been going back to the content of this session over the past few weeks quite regularly, and it wasn't the last London Dynamics 365 Power Platform user group, but the one before that was still at the Paddington office. And me and John actually presented there. We presented Just Ask It, but before that, we attended a session with Matthew Collins-Jones that he did on Power Automate. Yeah. And it was one of those sessions that I went into thinking I probably know like a lot of this content, but I'm here for like the 10% that I don't know. And actually that 10% turned out to be more like 40%.
Yeah.
And actually like learned some things I genuinely didn't know about Power Automate that I've now used in a recent project that I'm working on. So yeah, that was like the session that really like sticks at the top of my mind when I think about the sessions I've been to previously. Like that, just that content. I think for me, because I like the technical content anyway, and that just like that hit every nerve for me. Like I learned lots of new things that were really cool and actually really useful. So yeah, massive shout out to Matthew for that session, for bringing things like getting an array out of an apply to each. I just did not know you could do that. Really cool.
I think for me, probably two sessions, and one that I go to whenever he does it is Dan Barber's session on imposter syndrome. So that is like he's done that internally at the company that we're at the moment, and we use it we show that to onboarding consultants because I think it's very good. And I've seen it probably 2 or 3 times in the wild, so to speak. And every single time I learn something new about that. And then the other one, which I think we have to shout out to, is Don Osaka's keynote speech at South Coast Summit, because I think, and that was October last year, and I think if we'd not attended that, I don't think me and Mike would be as far along on the AI path as we are, because that really, like, we stood up after that and we started walking out and we both looked at each other and we were like, right, we need to get into this now. We need to up our game in this area, otherwise it's going to get done to us. So yeah, those are the standout sessions for me.
Awesome.
Cool.
On my end,
interested to know, does Dan come dressed as himself for the imposter syndrome session?
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
has he got a range of disguise?
Yeah. That's a good idea, though. I might have to float that idea to him.
On my end, I've been always impressed when the session speaker starts off with like a personal story of how they learn the specific thing they're learning. Because when they say something like, this took me 5 years to figure out, I'm like, oh, I'm listening now. I don't want to spend 5 years. I want to get it done in 5 minutes. So that like little hook gets into it. And also, like most people, I'm very nosy, and I'm just like, what is your life like? You figured out that Power Automate chunking feature when you were like having to build a ski website. Like, okay, tell me more about that ski website. Do you like skiing? So like that kind of personal connection makes me remember that they're a human. They're not there to like entertain me with education.
I think also, and Mike will speak to this, but one of the best, because me and Mike obviously are real close and we've worked together for quite a lot of time now, and we've presented quite a lot together. But I think for me, the standout presentation from him was actually at our offices at a hackathon, where he was really really put on the spot to deliver something, and he realised the words that he was saying was actually somebody else's who was supposed to do that presentation. So he changed it up, and I think that kind of changed his whole thinking about presenting.
That was like the keynote for the hackathon that we hosted that we're not allowed to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
That was actually so it was actually Chris H who put together the, I guess I call it like a template keynote, and I was trying to derive it from the PowerPoint presentation that we were given, and I actually messaged him the night before and said, look, I don't know, I don't really know how to put this into words, because like this isn't me, this isn't my experience. He was like, yeah, it is, but you just need to tell your own story. And then that clicked for me, because like I was able, so we were talking about digital transformation and the journey through there, and I've actually been at that stage every step of the way. Like, I've had it done to me. I was then doing it to other people, and now I'm at the stage where, you know, we're going to help them do it. And that's where that came from, really. It was just that was like a pivotal moment for me, and I was able to like really like pull in from personal experience. Like there's a hackathon I did back in 2022 at South Coast Summit. We put together like a blood testing tracking system for a hospital, and that actually like has quite a deep personal connection with me, because when my son was born, which as you mentioned earlier, Sean, I am riding for charity for that hospital, there was like a time window between when I was able to be with my wife while not giving birth but having a cesarean. And then there was like another window where she would have had to have been put under, and like she would have just been carted away, and then, you know, an hour later there would be a child, right? And because the blood testing got delayed so much during that time, and they were trying to chase the blood test, her platelets had dropped so low that they actually had to then do the general anaesthetic and then deliver him that way. So I wasn't able to be with her. And that was like, to me, that was like quite a big thing. It was just literally that the lab was so overwhelmed with all these different blood tests coming through, and there was just no way, there was no like good way of tracking it. Bearing in mind it was 2021, like we have, surely we could have done better than that. So that's where that came from. And I was able to like convey that in the presentation I gave, is to like what's the impact of the solutions that you're going to put together? Well, you might think it's like really small, but actually, like it could have a massive, profound impact.
Yeah, and that was so powerful that, you know, and I not an experience like Mike's, but something kind of similar. And how I got into the Power Platform was from a really kind of passionate space, and I think we both kind of realised through that, you know, there are things we can do. You know, we can build like, you know, compliance systems. We can build like, you know, we can build like expense systems or whatever. But then there are things like this, which are, you know, really game changing, that you can build at low cost and at speed with the Power Platform and portals, etc. So, you know, yeah, I think getting that story across, just people straight away in the room are like, whoa, okay, yeah, right, I'm in. Like literally within, you could see people's faces change. They're like 5 minutes into that story, they're like, right, I'm here now. I'm here for the 3 days. Let's go. And it's yeah, pretty impressive to watch.
That's incredible. That's
But
wow.
well, your actual question was supposed to be about getting nervous, and yes, I myself every time.
Is that honest with you? Like you're.
But I think also as well,
Sorry, Frank.
I was saying as well, covering for Chris H is no small task, is it?
Yeah.
Chris Huntingford, his sessions are incredible as well. I saw his MPPC Orlando, him and Carl Cookson, and their session about building ecosystems rather than apps. That was like awesome. Even if the content hadn't been so good, it's just their energy and their enthusiasm. It just takes over the place. So yeah, big shoes to step into.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And do you know what I really like about Chris Huntingford? And like, he is. I mean, not you know, I think, Sean, do you know Chris? Have you met Chris Huntingford before?
I've seen his posts on LinkedIn. I follow him, but I haven't personally met him yet.
So I mean, you know, no holds barred. The guy's fucking crazy as a box of frogs, right? But he is an amazing mentor. Like it's hard to put into words how good that guy actually is. You know, there are people that really stand out in the community. You know, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but you two are good. You two are great. Franco, you know how much you've helped me in the past, and Sean, you know, your Architects Accelerator course is really good. But then you've also got Chris and people like Mark Smith, who, you know, people who really give their time when their time is worth so much, and you know, whether that's with their family or the work that they're doing, they've still got the time to reach out to you and chat to you for, like, you know, I've been on calls with Mark Smith for like half an hour, 45 minutes. And I'm like, you know, this is ridiculous. How can this guy spend this amount of time talking to me one-to-one? Like, it's unbelievable. To me, that's unbelievable. And it, you know, it gives me goosebumps talking about it, because, you know, these people really do mean a lot to a lot of people.
And isn't Chris also doing something crazy on the side, like studying astrophysics?
They know that. Yeah. He's studying like it's like isn't it like astrogeology or something? It's even more niche. Yeah, but you got the Power Platform in there as well in their university.
Yeah,
ridiculous. Always an angle.
So what I heard in the Chris example and the Mark Smith example, and Mike, I think yours too, it's the similarity is like how much you care is clearly conveyed in what you're talking about and how important it is to you. Like Mark Smith, I actually got a text from today. He incredibly passionate in his podcast. And then the fact that he also gives one-on-one time shows how much he cares. Mike, you showed how much you cared by talking about how much of a personal experience that was. If we flip this on its head, have you been in situations where you saw a conference go off the rails, go really poorly, wasn't quite done very well, and you're like, oh, if they just did this one thing, this would have crushed. Like, the tech was there, the delivery wasn't. Do you have any memories of something like that?
I don't think it's... I think it's a bit unfair to possibly single someone out to say that it didn't go so well, because for someone to step up to present in the first place is a massive deal, right? And I've come from a background where I hated presenting. Like I was so nervous. I really struggled. I struggled to, to talk to more than a couple of people in the room. So I don't think we can actually say, that particular session wasn't good, because in my view, all the sessions that I've been to have been good. But I'll give you an example of one that went a bit badly. Was when me and Mike presented at Bletchley Park about AI, and there was a guy a guy in the crowd, and he dug us a new one.
Yeah, he really had a bee in his bonnet about AI, didn't he?
Yeah. And it got to the point where, because he also stood up and kind of said something about this lady from Microsoft who was presenting, and was a bit like, I would probably presented it this way, I probably would have presented it that way. And I was sitting next to Chris Huntingford, and I could feel him boiling. Like, I could feel his blood boiling. And I was like, I had my hand on him, and I was like, no, don't do anything, don't do anything. And he stood up, and he's like, look, this is really hard to present here. Why don't you come and have a go? And the guy was like, okay, whatever. And then right at the end, he left. The guy left. And I think that was a shame, because I think he could have stayed, and I think we could have had a beneficial conversation. But it was like his words didn't really mean anything, because when it came down to it, when he could have been possibly confronted on what he was saying, he was just out the door. He didn't even stay around for the free pizza.
And I really don't mind poo-pooing this presenter if everyone else is cool with it. Well, it was me. Yeah, you might know I've been working on this, the Power Pages course, or the Portal course to end all Portal courses. Well, I had this awesome idea a few years in a row.
Have you got... Hang on a minute. Have you got a Power Pages course?
So I've been trying to piece this together forever, and it's going to be 20, 30, 40 hours of content. And I thought, awesome idea. I'll squish it all into a 45-minute conference session. And each time, this is another tip for anyone for the conferences, think about the scope, what's going to work in that amount of time. So it was like, I'm going to try and squash every bit of experience I've ever had, every bit of knowledge I want to share, every top tip, whether it's soft skills to do with Power Pages, Pro Code, maximising the benefits of the out of the box. And here's me just non-stop for 45 minutes, and then take a deep breath at the end and realise, right, I got about 10% through my content. I was like, right, I'll let the audience.
Yeah, that would, you'd have to like. Sorry, Sean, for your benefit. There's a comedian in the UK called Tim Vine, and he's got a Guinness Book of Records for the most number of jokes in an hour. I think it's like 360 or something. So that's what Sean would have to do. He'd literally have to go like that for an hour.
Man, I wanna ask further on those. So in your case, Mike and John, if I could dig a little deeper on what went wrong there. I know you got heckled, but what do you feel was poorly done in that presentation?
Oh, I don't think we did anything wrong.
No.
Apart from maybe I talked back at the heckler. No.
I think, and we fed this back to the organisers. Part of it was setting the scene.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do a session on and call it, the AI user group at Bletchley Park, famous for Alan Turing, the grandfather of AI, then you need to set the scene well. Otherwise, you're going to get people like this guy who had been in the AI space since, Jesus Christ's birthday, and basically knew everything, and thought that he was coming to a very technical kind of seminar, basically. And the other thing is, I think also, and I think a lot of conferences do this, there has to be at the start a code of conduct. It's absolutely imperative that there's a code of conduct, so that you just say, we're all here to learn. There are some people here that haven't presented before. Go easy. People are doing this in their free time. They're normally not getting paid for it. And just be nice, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was really that wasn't there, because it was the first night evening they'd run the user group, right? We were the first people to present, and I don't think that had. I guess for a lot of people, because a lot of people go to user groups, to all sorts of different user groups, that code of conduct's kind of like almost a given. But if you're maybe going for the first time, you wouldn't be aware of that.
Code of conduct at the okay. One thing in terms of education that I always think about is before I have to give any kind of presentation or real course is I think through like all the incredible teachers I've had in my life and like what made them incredible in what they taught. Do the three of you have an example of a particular teacher in your life? It doesn't have to be tech related, even though tech related is always easier. Of someone who, not necessarily that they helped you or they loved you or gave you a pat on the back, like that's amazing, but like the teaching style, like in the way they explained a concept where it just made so much sense. Like for me personally, I had an algebra teacher. Algebra was always my downfall. Geometry, that's my thing. I understood that before they even started talking. I just think visually. But I had an algebra teacher that like broke it down by using a lot of pictures. I remember they used so many examples. Like if a car is driving this fast, they draw a car on the board. They were very loud. And just by them drawing things and making it practical made it really understandable for me. You have to like something like that where the medium or the way that it was taught made it stick in your head and memorable.
I think, I think for me, I don't have an example of a specific teacher that would have, done so that was influential to me, but I do agree with what you're saying there, in that it has to be, it does have to be quite practical, and it just has to be. So if it engages me, then that I'm always going to learn more. What I will say though is that I think this is something we're going to cover later, is about video content. I really, really, really struggle with video content and learning via video. I need a web page, I need a book, anything. If I'm watching a video, for whatever reason, I'm just not engaged. However, Nathan Rose does his short videos on Power Effects low-code plugins, or I think he's done some on Power Automate in the past, and things like that. And just that, like, really snappy content, just a few minutes, perfect. That's enough time to keep me engaged. And I always go back to his videos.
Yeah, I think for me, school for me was a little bit of a tricky place. Primary school, was all right. Secondary school, I didn't really like. University, I didn't really like, to be honest. I liked it when I kind of got into work. So I think I'm quite different to Mike, though, in the fact that I do like video content, and I do learn probably more from video content than I do from the written word. And so with that in mind, I would say, someone who was very instrumental in how I got into consulting is John Levesque, because he was the Power Automate evangelist at Microsoft, and he was putting out loads and loads of content on Power Automate. That's where I kind of realized how good that technology was. And then I kind of went all in. So if it wasn't for me discovering that channel, I might have got here, but I think it would have taken a lot longer.
Hats off to all the people who've really built our career thanks to all the tutorials that they've taken in their free time to record. Like, I think everyone here has benefited from that, and everyone listening, like, tremendously in their day-to-day. Franco, I just realized I stole your question on teaching. I was supposed to ask you the question on how has conference attendance impacted your career.
No problem. So, cool thing. It certainly has. In many different ways, really. So I'd say the networking, first of all. Scottish Summit was just life-changing, full stop. I went from knowing basically no one from Norway, no one from that part of the world, to just having a full-on gang. My good friend Ulrike Ekerbeck was over. It was pretty much Power Pages or Portals Mania that year. There were so many of us. Nick Dolman there, Victor Dantas, Oliver Rodriguez, just a huge clan of us, all there at the same time. It was just after the end of COVID, where everyone's dying to have some interaction again, to take the conferences away from virtual and back into physical. So that, I'd say, is the biggest that camaraderie and seeing community heroes in person for the real time and being welcomed into the fold. Hearing some feedback from people that have read my content, that was great as well. I'd had all the mentoring from Paddy Byrne, Megan Walker, just great bunch of people, and then that just seemed to send us on a crazy trajectory. As soon as kind of word got out, oh, Franco does some custom portal stuff, and they don't have to look like portals. Yeah, freelance career just took off massively. Ulrika, good friend of mine, got started in the conference scene just about the same time as me, and to watch her kind of skyrocket as I kind of just stumbled along, seeing her content was humbling. The way that she delivers her design for portal sessions is just incredible. It's like watching a masterclass. Not just how incredible she is at the skill, but how far she's come with presenting. It's like that's the level I'd like to attain at some point. I say when I grow up, but I think she's a fair bit younger than me anyway.
Nice. So the network was a key piece I took out of it.
And in fact, so one of the strong point for Ulrich is she shared a tip to say you're probably tempted to just go to all the portal sessions and support our friends for each conference, but you're going to know that stuff. At least step out of your comfort zones. Go to a few sessions that are completely off the wall, kind of stuff you wouldn't usually attend, and just see what you pick up from those, and were real eye openers.
Oh, that's very creative advice. Go attend sessions that have nothing to do that you think you would never use and just kind of see what happens. It's awesome. Mike, John, have you, in your presentations, like John, I know you did a VRT. I think you did one live. Like I saw a photo of you where you spoke.
Yeah.
And then Mike, you obviously mentioned one. How have those things kind of impacted your career? For good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still trying to, especially on my own, I think I'm still trying to get that presentation style right. When I'm presenting with Mike, it's different because we kind of bounce off each other.
It's electric.
Yeah, we can make it quite funny. Whereas I tried to do my building rapport session at the London Power Platform and D365 user group, and it kind of didn't really work, but it worked really well on Sarah Jones's VRT. So it's just kind of like tailoring a little bit and tweaking a little bit. But yeah, I still love doing it. I think I'm always trying to think of something that I can do next. And I think for me, it's probably not so much the technical side; it's more the essential skill side that I think I'm going to try and focus on as much as I can. Yeah.
So for me, I mean, the only thing that doing conferences has helped me do is really just improve my presentation skills, because I was very nervous. The reason I actually started doing sessions was because I looked back at my wedding video and at my groom speech, and I was an absolute wreck. I still remember the night before I was in a wreck, like making sure that the speech was right, that I was presenting well enough, that I wasn't stuttering, I didn't forget my words. And then when it actually came to doing the speech, it just, you can see the fear in my voice. Well, you hear the fear in my voice. You can just see how anxious I am, and that I just did not want to be there. And to me, that like completely ruined like that memory that we have of our wedding. So I I got into doing sessions because I'm not going to get married again, but I really wanted to like make sure that if I'm in that situation again, that I'm not a wreck. And yeah, that's how it's helped me with my career. It's helped me to have a bit more confidence in what I'm saying and in presenting, and maybe like realize that I was maybe not as bad at presenting as I thought I was. But it's definitely helped in that way. Nothing like massive for my career or anything, but public speaking's now one of those things that's on my CV or on my skill set. So
I think the other thing is also like, and people who listen to this podcast quite a lot probably can get that there is a dynamic between me and Mike.
No, is there?
Don't spoil it, you. And so we will kind of call each other out if something's not right. So it's normally me doing something a bit but something wrong, or I've handled something a little bit wrong. Mike's my go-to filter, and
I cancel John all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of things where, I won't go into details. We'll talk about it off the call.
Please don't.
No, I'm not going to do it again. But he called me out on it, and he's like, you can't say that. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Yeah, and I took it on the chin. But that's what. Sorry, what are you going to say, mate?
Oh, bad joke, rude joke. Forget that.
So I think it's important to have like someone's got your back, but also can tell you, don't be a dick.
It's all about candor.
Yeah, we speak about it a lot. I wasn't
do.
going to say it, but radical candor is like one of the biggest things I've learned probably in the last 18 months, and I try and employ it in pretty much any aspect. I do it at home as much as I can, although sometimes that's hard because I sometimes don't make a decision because I feel like it's going to impact on someone else, and so I kind of a bit wishy-washy in how I make those decisions. But I'm trying to be better at that, and that's radical candor is fundamental to that.
And anybody who doesn't know what radical candor is, or just being candid, I'll show you an example. John, that shirt in the background is just like laid across the bed. Have you ironed that? Because that's going to crease.
That's my in-laws shirt because they're staying in this room at the moment. So I don't think we've got an iron. I think they probably bought one themselves.
I've got to say, Mike, I liked your Keith Lemon-esque way of pronouncing candor. Sounded like an.
I don't know why I do it. It's like the way that my wife pronounces gooseberries.
I like how. So, Mike, you know a variable type, which is true or false. What is it?
Yeah, Boolean.
There you go. See, we said Boolean. I call it Boolean. He calls it Boolean.
Nice. It sounds tastier anyway.
Never picked up on that. Never picked up on that before, but thanks, John.
That's all right. No worries. It's a really no. I love it. I say things really weird. Like I say volume, like a bit weird, and lasagna. So that weird. We're going off on a major ADHD tangent now.
Let's keep it going. How do you pronounce the technology Azure?
Azure. But I used to say Azure.
Yeah, I still hear that Azure, and I'm like, I've been saying Azure, and I'm like, I don't know who's correct here.
I think Azure is the like North American pronunciation, and I think because a lot of the learning content comes from North America, I think that's rubbed off in the European side as well.
I think both are valid.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's all valid, right?
Sorry about the delay. Can anyone else hear Azure in the corner shop song "Brimful of Azure"? That's all I hear every time now. Brimful of Azure.
That's definitely going to be in my head now.
There's just to like finish this ADD tangent. There's the like Azure Islands off of the coast of Portugal. Where when we first went to them, I'm like, oh my God, that's where the Azure servers are. Like, that's where they're that's how geographically not an American stereotype I am, that's what I thought was happening.
I love it. Nice.
Franco, did you have, I have some questions of my own, but did you have any questions about like learning or like courses that you wanted to ask the group, or like, should I hop into some of the ones I had?
Given my technology hiccups, fire away, as if you knew what I was going to ask.
Okay, awesome. All right, so then I don't feel bad about stealing your question earlier. Yeah, so when you present something publicly, live, face-to-face, in real life, very, very different vibe and experience than presenting it digitally. and presenting it digitally via VRTs, via Teams, usually a lot less exciting, a lot less fun, and you can't, especially when people aren't on camera. Do you use any strategies to make your presentations in those scenarios more effective because you don't have that element of it being in person? In my personal experience, I try to follow the Ocean's 11 approach, where if you watch that movie, there's a lot of action and the action goes away. It's tension release, tension release. So like, throw a bunch of power automate at them and then pause and like, so do you guys understand? What do you think about this? Kind of pause. Like, as Franco said, don't overload them with content. So like, that's something I try to use. In your cases, do you have any strategies of what you use to be as effective as possible in a place where there's already so much happening and we have workshops almost every day available?
I think.
Yes.
Sorry.
Awesome.
Keep going. I'm sorry, mate.
No, just saying, awesome question. Love that.
I think being honest, being yourself, and all the quirks that come with that. I've probably been trying to find that for a long time, and like, you guys didn't really know me up until maybe like a year or 2 years ago, but before Power Platform, like, my mental health was in the toilet. I was in a very, very bad situation. And yeah, I came to this and it's completely changed that around. And yeah, I'm very appreciative of it, and I don't take it for granted, and I don't take it lightly that, you know, it has had a very positive mental effect on me. So yeah.
I think for me, like, if you're doing a presentation digitally, it's all about engagement with the audience, right? Because if you're, it's like we just say, if you're just going to waffle your content and forget that the audience are there, then the audience aren't going to be engaged, right? And then when they're not engaged, that's when your message doesn't come across. It's not the best session. It's probably something that I need to improve on when I do virtual sessions, is that I need to, like, engage with the audience more rather than just giving my content.
Franco, what I've seen some of yours.
Yeah, for me. So what I say about mine is kind of unintentionally some of what John said, in some vulnerability. So for me, that's with let's take the piss out of ourselves and just push it. So it would be stupid to do this live. So let's do this live. Let's do a live build. Let's let things break and go wrong. Or it will be some absolutely from the trenches lessons learned. So here's where I completely cocked up. Here's where I spent weeks developing something that I then find out is in the config. So I've built something Microsoft have already built for me, or it's just giving them something other than just, you could go and read this in the docs, but this is essentially me reading it from the docs live on a session. Agree with everything you guys have said, that there's no value to doing that. I absolutely love Sean, bit of bromance going on here. Your sessions on Architects Accelerator, I was blown away by the variety of content on there, the novel formats for teaching what could otherwise be some pretty dry topics. I thought superb job. As you're probably getting on the interview now, Sean's really engaging anyway. But like he mentioned, the visual style, that totally comes across in his sessions. There's some formats where the session was you'd be playing along with a GPT. Other sessions where there's two Seans, where there's all kinds of things going on. Just absolutely highly recommend it. And John, I think you can attest that it's just so engaging. Both in the lessons, but also the assignments.
When there was, I think it was one of the first sessions, Sean, you did you pretended to be a developer and then someone else, and I was like, this guy's good. This is going to be wicked. Yeah,
I appreciate it, y'all.
Yeah, it was very good.
On that note of vulnerability, that's where I actually get very nervous about being myself. Like, yes, I can be loud, I can try to be funny. I am nervous in today's age of what I can and can't say in two areas. One, am I being unprofessional if I swear or if I start talk about too many personal things? And another thing I'm very nervous about is potentially coming off like I'm insulting Microsoft technology. In those scenarios, do you all have any experience or feedback on how do you do the balance between like what is unprofessional and when were you unsure whether to do it? John, you mentioned that Mike is kind of your barometer on that. And then the other side of is like when you do disagree with the technology, when you may not feel like the way it's marketed or the way it's explained is as impactful as it could be, do you have any strategies around that? I usually try to talk up like the positive aspects of it before I go into the things that I was surprised aren't as effective. Me literally saying that sentence, I hope you hear how incredibly politically correct I'm trying to be because I'm so nervous to even ask you or say anything that's remotely negative about a product.
Well, first of all, look at portals and how Microsoft market them. Franco's made a career out of that. So I won't worry about it. To be honest, I won't worry about it. One of my bugbears at the moment, and it's still one of my bugbears, is the new designer in Power Automate. I can't get on with it, and I'm really still really struggling with that.
And we do publicly say how it is as well, don't we?
Yeah, and I suppose there's a difference between things that are done to you and things that are done with you, which is basically all about digital transformation anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the things that are done to me come as a bit of a surprise, and then I'm like, yeah, but this is I don't like it. What are you doing? Yeah, I don't know what anyone else thinks.
It's funny, we were talking about portals last week at ANS, and we posed a question which was, at what point do you go past the out-of-the-box functionality on the portal? I think the conclusion we came to was the minute you get it out the box. That is a solid face from Franco there.
There's a bit of a pause there again. Sorry for my technical hiccups. But yeah, I think it's a great point. I think there's a real art to that in terms of if you want to deliver value for money portal projects, in knowing how to maximize the benefit of what is there configurable out of the box. What is, again, going back to Sean's point, the things that we might struggle to be honest about, but which areas of functionality should you just forget? What's just there to tick a box and doesn't really do that good a job? For me, a lot of what's been there long term is really well thought out. So things like multilingual functionality, the fact that portals were born in Canada where they've got English and French speaking is probably a good reason why they've done that so well. Whereas in areas like customer tasking, that is something where I would say let's spend some time to customize that, because it's going to have such a big effect on our portal, whether that's gathering documents, being able to report on them, where is each case up to. Whereas you'll probably see, right, starting out, I'm just going to have a form with an attachment on. It ticks a box, but it doesn't help anybody else. Still going to have that human intervention, go in, check every case. You've not got the easy way to report on it, approve, reject, that kind of thing. Those are the areas that I'd be customizing. But yeah, I think there's a good point that you make, that if you see from day one, you're essentially using none of the configurable tools. You're just saying, right, we're using Power Pages because it's on the Microsoft stack and it's integrated with Dataverse, and that's it. We're going to build everything else custom. You're probably going down the wrong track.
And with that, though, I'm going to try to pull more out of this question. Have you ever said anything live or in a presentation that later on you might have lost sleep or wonder like, ugh, kind of, I don't know if that was like a good thing to say. My example was I had the honor of being on Mark Smith's podcast, and he asked me about the TOGAF framework, which I don't always feel is very effective, especially in cloud architecture and Power Platform. And then I felt like really pushing for the well-architected framework instead of that, and kind of, I would say, borderline dismissing it the way I was speaking about it. I was very nervous about it until like 2 weeks later, he interviews Chris Huntingford, and then him and two other people are like, oh yeah, I don't use that at all. I don't see the benefit of that. And I felt a lot better with how loud and vocal they were. But that was a situation where I was nervous about what I said. Have any of y'all been in that?
Oh yeah, I panic about everything that I say, probably even on this episode. doesn't have to be technical. It could just be anything that comes out of my mouth. I sometimes have to second guess what I'm saying. Who am I insulting? Who am I putting down by saying that?
I think you're a lot better at that now, though.
Oh yeah, better, but not perfect.
For those of you who cannot see on video, my daughter's just turned up. You can say, do you want to ask any of these people a question? You can ask them. Yeah, if you want to ask Sean a maths question.
24 divided by 24.
24 divided by 24 is 1.
Yeah, I think Sean's playing along there.
24 times 24.
Oh, that's hard. That's 400.
By 24 is that 1?
Yeah, 24 times 24 though. 400.
I can see Sean opening the calculator in his eyes.
One more.
No. That's it now. Look,
it would have to be somewhere near, I don't know, 576. I'm just kind of like...
Co-pilot, what's 24 times 24?
What an awesome question. Imagine if, I don't know, Satya's up there giving a keynote and someone raises their hand and is like, yeah, excuse me. Yeah, what's 24 times 24?
She did preempt it, though. She did say, do you want a maths question? So, Right, she's gone now.
Another area of learning a lot now is everyone has kind of the YouTube videos that they make. John, I've seen you make some YouTube videos. Franco, I know you have started to film a lot of them for kind of the course that's coming out. Mike, I don't know your video experience, but I only started subscribing to you recently, so maybe there's some...
I've been saying for the past year that I'm going to do video.
Oh, you don't do video? Okay. So we're just gonna, in case anyone was questioning.
What did I say earlier, Sean? I don't learn on video content. Why would I make it?
You never know. People are always full of surprises. So
yeah, true.
In my case, I adore making videos. People, especially I've noticed, are very scared to get started, make their first video. They don't think it's quality. They compare it to other people. And then there's other people who just say, you just got to keep making. You just got to keep making. In this case, where do you find the line between over-polishing it and just getting it out the door?
Oh, God, this goes into, everything in life, right? Is, delivered is better than perfect, or, setting your definition of done. I've been so guilty of... No, it's obviously not video, but other... In fact, the first episode of this podcast... I sat on it for 2 weeks because I didn't think it was perfect enough, and I was going through scrubbing the audio so closely. It's really hard to do when you can be a perfectionist. And I think this is also one of those ADHD traits as well, where it has whatever you're doing has to be absolutely perfect, but you have to accept that actually just because you don't think it's perfect doesn't mean it's not perfect to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And those little imperfections that you see, other people don't.
Yeah.
I think that's a really powerful thing you just said there, Mike, is what counts as perfect to other people isn't necessarily production value. That is precisely the piece of information that I needed at that time I was stuck. And if you'd have sat on it for another couple of weeks, you might have led to that person stewing and being stuck with that problem for a few weeks.
Yeah.
When I was writing my blog to start off with, I got to a point where I kind of had a bit of a block on it and didn't know really what to write about. And now what I do is I write a blog post when it's something that I need to remember. So it might not, and I'm not really, fair enough. I'm not about getting numbers on my blog. Trust me, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Well, it might do, but you never know. But if I feel like I'm going to need that, and it's repeatable, and I'm going to need it again in a couple of weeks' time, I'm writing it down, and I write it down there because someone else is maybe going to get something out of it, but I know that I am when I'm going to need it again.
Is that why you put a post out every week that says Wednesday evening, the bins?
It's Tuesday evening anyway, and that's in my diary, so don't worry about it.
Was that a Radiohead reference?
Color-coded.
Was that a what reference, sorry?
A Radiohead reference?
No, it's me.
Called the Bends, and they're from
No. We're talking about bins, as in the rubbish bins.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah,
The trash.
The trash.
Yeah.
Trash.
My bugbear. Copilot can do your CV, but it can't take the bins out.
No, but a Roomba with an elastic band can.
With a cat on it. That's what I put on.
For the sake of argument, I've heard a lot that, perfection is the enemy of done, and I completely agree. I've been stuck in analysis paralysis, spending way too much time making like a YouTube thumbnail. I will say, like, for content that lives on, like for instance, in a blog or in a YouTube video, not like a one-off like LinkedIn post or video, like that stuff gets revisited a lot. And when you do put in that perfection, I think it really shows. Like Anna Black comes out with like a blog post, like I don't know how often, but whenever it comes out, like I know it's going to be lengthy, I know it's going to be good, I know it's going to be well written, and it's going to be like nicely composed because her UI is her thing. So like the fact that that lives on and I can go back and like reference those, like I want to reference those because I remember how pretty they are, as opposed to something that was like kind of like quickly turned out. On my YouTube channel, I see some of my videos, like the ones Franco and I did, I spent extra time on the editing and the thumbnail, and that continues to grow. It didn't like plateau as a video. It continues to get views, and I think because it's like well composed. However, the flip side of that is I put in a lot of time on certain videos, so much time I don't want to admit, and it just does not perform well, and it just hits like, I don't know, 200 and then it stops completely.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm saying is if you are a perfectionist, as long as you're actually finishing it and not paralyzed, like if it's going to live on in a blog or YouTube, like that's fine. If it's a LinkedIn post, those are the ones where I'm like, I would suggest to somebody, just crank it out. Just see what happens. You don't even know if your stuff is going to stick. You might write about like, I don't know, Canvas app UI and figure out people don't care. And it turns out what they care about is formula columns or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are some things you can do. Like there was a post recently someone put out about LinkedIn about, having your post as text and then links in the comments, because that kind of gets around the kind of LinkedIn algorithm for not taking you away from their platform. And I did test that recently, and I got much more traction on posts that didn't have links inside the actual post itself.
Interesting.
So that's something I've been meaning to talk to you about, Mike, because when we do promote Sprint Zero, we need to put those posts in anyway.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I actually just I did a repost for my fundraiser, and it has a link in the post.
Yeah.
So potentially if I had actually put that link in the comments.
Yeah. And it makes sense because LinkedIn is trying to keep you within their ecosystem, right? They don't want you to come out. So not that they're stopping you to come out, but they don't really want you. So they're not going to surface that content that allows that to happen.
Yeah.
As much as other content which doesn't have links in the posts.
That's why people do it. I was wondering why they're always putting in the comment. I'm like, you're annoying me, but clearly no, I'm the one who doesn't realize that LinkedIn doesn't.
No, that's exactly where I was about 3 days ago. And then I read this and thought, all right, that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah.
It's still annoying though.
It is annoying, yeah.
One piece of advice that I haven't followed, but I'm going to start is, as content creators, it's so much pressure for us to like create the same thing and like create new things every week. And what advice I've gotten is like, take a topic and then just keep posting about it for a month in different ways. Like the advice I was given is like, all right, you have this awesome YouTube video that you spent like 3 weeks to make. Like, can you make that into a blog post to release that? Then release the video. Can you release a snippet of the video? Can you release that also?
We've lost Sean.
Yeah. Sean, can you hear us?
He looks a bit like he's blowing us a kiss. I don't know if that's his intention.
No, it's not
That's what
frozen, but his
for me.
audio's gone. I mean, everyone's probably frozen for you, Franco.
Yeah, he's frozen for me. So what? I'll fill in a little something there, and it's another tip from Mark Smith. But this was about conference sessions, and that was if you, like I do, try and come up with a novel session for each. So every time I go to a conference, I give in a brand new session for the first time. That never gets repeated. And he gives such an obvious, in hindsight, tip, and that was, if you imagine the first time you do something is perfect, and you never get to build in that audience feedback, you never get to do the continuous improvement of, this is the bits that landed well, these are the bits that need improving. it's never going to go anywhere. So often it's when you've done that same session 5, 6, 7 times, that's perfect. And I've never really given I've never given myself the chance.
And I think also it hones the session, and other people are going to see it, right? So that's what I love about Dan Barber's session. Like it's so good, and I every single time it's like I get deeper and deeper into it. I don't know.
Are you back, Sean?
Back with us?
I am back, right?
Yay!
Yeah.
Batteries run out of the microphone.
Yeah. I still get self-conscious. Like I hear everything that's being said. I still get self-conscious about posting like when I don't feel like it's a banger, and I know that's wrong. Literally the advice, if you go, I went to the Scottish Power platform user group last month. The advice that was given by a very talented recruiter was post every day. Like, perhaps I misquoted her and she said post every other day, but I'm fairly positive it was multiple times a week. And that to me seems, for me personally, that seems insane. Like, I know a lot of people do that and they're getting a lot of success. I personally don't feel like, if I don't have something to say, like, I don't want to say it, but like, I know that's not true. Like, I don't know if you all run into that issue.
I think you've got to do what feels right for you, right? And what your priorities are. I think if you, like, take Mike, for example, right? His priorities, and I don't think you mind saying, but his priorities majorly changed after he was hospitalised. And, you know, he's taken a bit of a step back from LinkedIn and stuff because, you know, it's not a necessity. It's not a necessity for him. So I think it's a really hard balance. And I think sometimes LinkedIn can be, if you're not careful, if you're on it all the time, and I'm on it a lot, you do get that. It does sometimes feed that imposter syndrome where you think, oh God, should I be posting more? And I'm kind of coming out the end of that, to be fair, because I've kind of getting to the point where I do kind of understand my self-worth. That's taken a long time, and that's quite a hard thing to say. But I am getting there. Yeah.
It depends on your end goal, right, John? If your end goal to become a Microsoft MVP, then yeah, post every day and look at every single LinkedIn strategy and Twitter strategy and everything like that, and curtail your content to cover that, and make sure you post every day and you engage with everyone. Is your goal just to put out helpful content every so often, and when it suits you and when it works your time frame, then do that.
Yeah.
Your content will get to people. You can employ the tricks of, like, you know, manipulating the algorithm. I use that in quotation marks to get your content out further. You can get people to reshare it and whatnot. But ultimately, you know, people will come across your content. There's like blog articles that I've written that I see, like, you know, 6 months later, somebody's actually like come across it and they've commented that they've liked it, and you know that your content's still getting there. So I guess, yeah, a lot of it is your what is your end goal? Like, if you're running a business, like you're running a training course or something like that, yeah, you want to maximize that engagement. So yeah, absolutely employ those tactics.
But I think, like, for Sean, for example, word of mouth for you, for your course, I think is really the where it's at for you, because, like, I know, you know, there's been a few people that I've recommended that course to, just from having chats. I created a Power Platform mentor custom GPT, and at the end it says, if you want to find out more, you should go on the Architects Accelerator course, which I thought was good promo. Yeah, so I think you know, really throwing it in people's faces sometimes doesn't work. And having that organic word of mouth, which is basically, again, how the pixelated Franco over here on the right hand side has pretty much built his business, and he's doing all right out of it. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, I think what it comes down to is being a nice person, which we all are. Don't be a dick, and you'll be all right.
Good, I've been following that.
Being a dick.
A couple of caveats I'd add to that is something that I...
The delay doesn't help with the comedic timing.
So I'm just going to power ahead with this one. So 2 caveats I'd add to what you were just saying is, first of all, you don't have to overthink the content. And this is me being a total hypocrite because I always overthink it and try and do War and Peace. What was in my mindset? Why did I approach it this way? Why would you even think about using Liquid versus JavaScript or whatever? Whereas actually, I could change someone's working week by just saying, here's a really useful one-liner code snippet. No explanation about it, just there's a screenshot. And I might save someone tens of hours with that. So I know that if I changed the kind of content I was putting out, I could be making a lot more people happier with way, 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 way less effort. And because I know that I dive deep into the content, that's really put me off sharing anything but the live stuff for probably a year or more now. And so the other caveat is, great tip again from Mark Smith is, no one's necessarily there every other day live putting out that piece of content. They're batching it and then maybe saying, right, here's a couple of hours that I've got where I can say, here's the next month's LinkedIn content, here's the next 2 months' Twitter content, and it's just, boom, schedule it to go out at that time. And as far as you're concerned, in your feed, I'm there doing it all the time. The value to you is the same, but I wish it was I. That person is boxed much more cleverly.
Advice on LinkedIn, which is, it's not all about you. Like, go cheer on other people. Go comment their stuff. Like, you don't have to be the content creator. You can reshare other people's amazing things. And I think that obvious fact of it's not all about you, like, I've tried to employ that every week. I try to like legitimately go on there and be like, what are these cool things people took time, like I take my time to make? And then what can I add to what they're saying? Can I expand more? Or can I just say that was awesome and cheer them on? And I found a lot of enjoyment around that. And for my own like selfish reasons is I do want to show my expertise. Well, I was like, well, here's a medium. Like David Wyatt had an amazing post about like, I think like governance or something. I was like, oh, but you got to watch out with Perriam. You got to do this. He's like, oh, cool. I didn't know that. I'm like, great. I didn't know that thing you mentioned. So it's like, and then of course it's getting more eyes on his stuff and allows me to like contribute and do something that day on LinkedIn that isn't, hey, go look at my stuff.
Yeah, I think that comment, it doesn't always, sometimes that comment might be like you see the contrarians out there that have to challenge every point ever made, but it can also be, I agree, here's an example from my experience, or it could be a clarification. There's so many things, yeah, I totally agree, that add some value in the comments, and it's not like you're stealing the thunder from that author because you're giving the post extra reach anyway.
I'm even here is because I stumbled across John Russell's article completely by accident on solutions architecture, referenced it in a video, and then Franco, you're like, I know that guy. I was like, well, one, I'm not surprised. And then two, you put us in touch, and then like, here we all are.
And I came along for the ride.
Right, so we do have to wrap it up because otherwise I'm not picking my wife up and she's going to get cross. But before we go, Mike's got something to say.
Have I?
Yeah. What just messaged you about?
What have you messaged me about?
Oh, come on. This is going to get cut for sure. Jesus.
You know what, actually, yeah. So Sprint Zero has actually been going for 8 months now. This is coming up to 8 months. So we obviously... one thing we're going to talk about at the Scottish Summit in October is actually what are the hidden costs of running a podcast. Like, you don't think... You consume podcasts and you don't normally think about, like, what does it actually cost to run? Like, what do you actually need? What subscriptions do you need? What services do you need? Do you have a backup plan and all that sort of stuff? So yeah, me and John went into making Sprint Zero, and we had absolutely no idea how much it would cost. But thankfully, we had a saviour in Franco with his aviator sunglasses on, which I assume they're aviator sunglasses with all the pixelation. He very, very generously sponsored a untested and unproven podcast from the get-go. So a massive shout out to Franco for all of his financial support. All those adverts you see at the start and finish with this mythical Power Pages course. All for Frank, yeah, that was all Franco, and it kept the lights on at Sprint Zero. So yeah Franco,
thanks, man. Cheers,
massive thanks for that.
And then we also need to say thank you to Sean, who is now transitioning into the new sponsorship position, And we really appreciate that. I think it's a match made in heaven, as it has been with Franco. And we really appreciate that too, because it allows us to continue what we're doing. And it means a lot personally to me and Mike. So yeah, thanks.
So Franco, any tips for Sean?
Pay on time!
Yeah, let them use the toilet before any lockups, and don't necessarily announce that you've kidnapped them live on air. I would also say to the three of you, really, don't underestimate the value that you've got in those early episodes. So some of them that haven't got the highest listening numbers, they need to be promoted. There's some absolute gold conversations that have happened.
Yeah. I think what we've asked for as well, and hopefully this will come in at the end of this. We've asked some of our previous guests that we've released to record a few words about how Sprint Zero changed their lives. Now, some of them have been more instrumental in changing their lives than others, and you will get that by the tone of the voice of the people speaking. But yeah, I think that's kind of it from all of us.
Oh,
and
quick point to make.
Yeah.
Maybe you can add this in post, but I think it's only fair you ask all your guests about times they felt uncomfortable in their working lives or in general day-to-day lives. Have you got a time when you felt uncomfortable?
Me?
I'll tell you where I feel uncomfortable on the podcast is when me and Mike say "love you" to each other. I don't feel uncomfortable then, but when one of us chooses who's going to go first and say "love you" to the guest and what the guest says, and that for me can be quite uncomfortable because you never know what you're going to get. You never know.
And we had one guest, didn't we, who actually beat us to it.
Yeah.
I won't say who because his episode or her episode may not have been released yet.
His episode. His.
I'll break that ice. John, Mike, and Franco, I love all three of you, and I don't say that as a vapid American television phrase. I love what you do and what you give to the community and what you've given to me, and that's all pure love. That's where that sentence comes from. You can find Mike and John on LinkedIn. Links to resources mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes. Music today provided by Ken Lickfeldt. You can find his music on Spotify. Additional music used in this episode and all other credits are in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss the next episode. We would also appreciate it if you follow us on LinkedIn. If you're enjoying this podcast, give us a review on the podcast platform. That helps us even more than putting a link in the comments of a LinkedIn post. Thank you. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been Franco Musso. Say goodbye, Franco.
Goodbye, Franco.
John and Mike, say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.
See you, mate. Cheers.
And I've been Sean Ostrahan. See you next episode.
Let's end on a fist bump. Not butt cheeks.
Love you all. See you later.
Love you, Sean.
Appreciate it. Love you too.
Talk to you later.
Right, now we've got to wait for Franco's bit to upload. It's going to take about 13 days.
Hey, Sprint Zero, Keith Atherton here.
Kia ora, John and Mike. It's Nathan Rose here in beautiful Auckland, New Zealand.
Hi, folks. It's Chris Huntingford.
This is James Connelly from Network Rail.
I can't stop laughing!
So how did Sprint Zero change my life?
Before Sprint Zero, I was merely a humble thought leader. Now I'm practically a prophet in the wilderness of technology.
It helped me realize how friendly people are in the space, and my interactions with you and Mike online helped break that barrier down for me.
Well, simply put, I made 2 lifelong friends in both of you as a result of being on the show.
I just wanted to leave a note and talk about how the Sprint Zero podcast has changed my life.
Well, I definitely learned to be more comfortable saying I love you.
It's enabled me to be and feel confident about my injury and how it's changed me as a person and how I can use that experience of the injury to help others, no matter what they're going through.
I'm going to do it for real this time.
My family and friends, who have all dutifully listened to my episode, actually understand what I do now, which is kind of a revelation.
There was a line that John dropped on me during the podcast that I've kind of taken to heart ever since and actually kind of applied it to my day-to-day life. He said that there's a very, very fine line between adrenaline and anxiety.
Ever since I've had an obsession with Hawaiian shirts.
And it's made me feel confident to open up about different things, really important things.
John, Mike, how did it change my life? Not much really, to be honest. I'm still plugging away, doing my videos, getting my subscribers. But more importantly, how has it changed your life? I was episode 9, you're now on to episode 30. You're absolutely smashing it.
Every time I walk outside, the clouds part and rays of light are bestowed upon me.
Sprint Zero allowed me to show that you don't have to take a direct route to project management. You can go other ways into it, and it's opened more of a conversation internally where I work as to what journeys have we all been on.
But seriously, thinking of examples for Uncomfortable Corner made me give myself a mini retro. I realised things I did well and not so well, and it's something I'm now doing regularly to help me improve.
John and Mike are two very crazy but really caring and fun guys.
I've even stopped licking random inanimate things like stop signs and buses.
Not a day goes by when I'm not stopped in the street and asked about my appearance on the illustrious Sprint Zero podcast.
You know, people saying to me that me sharing my story has made, parts of their lives easier has made me feel really useful as well.
Seriously though, appearing on Sprint Zero is like finding the missing semicolon in my code of life. It elevated my insights and gave me a digital soapbox a bit more height. Thanks for the platform boost.
All right, here we go for real. See, I used to be a quiet, shy wallflower. But since being a guest on Sprint Zero, I'm now the enthusiastic cheerleader I always knew I could be.
Also, it's given me exposure to a wider network of people within the workspace, and people have also listened to the episode I was on, and they've resonated with some of the things I had to say.
It actually didn't feel like recording a podcast at all. It was so much fun, and anyone who's thinking about being a guest, I highly recommend it.
Anyway, keep up the great work, guys.
Thanks for having me on. All the best. Kia kaha.
But for today, Heather 1, ADHD 0.
I love hearing these things. I love community. Keep it going and keep sharing the love.
Yeah, I highly recommend being a guest on it.
Thanks so much for having me on, and let's do it over a beer next time, hey guys?
So John and Mike, thank you so much. And the Sprint Zero podcast, you've changed me completely as a man. All my appreciation.
This isn't the recording. This is the test of the recording.